Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. We're talking with Colin McIntosh and having a lot of fun hearing about how he started his company, which is one of the fastest growing in the country. Amazingly, you get up, you just don't know, when you started, you just don't know, but you've got to, you really have to, Colin, if you've got a brain, since it's your thing, approach it like this can be the biggest in the industry, the fastest growing. You got to approach it like that because it sure makes it a whole lot easier to recruit high caliber people and keep them interested if they feel like, these people are serious. They want to do something big. This is just not a job. And they can get kind of caught up in that,
It's interesting you say that because I agree with you in some level, but there's also an appeal. There's also an appeal to sort of do the opposite a little bit and to keep your perspective modest on it. I think that there's so many companies and it really is what I've always done with Sheets and Giggles is I've always zigged where other people zag. And so even in the culture that we build and what I tell my team and what the team tells others, we're not trying to be the next Bed Bath & Beyond. We're not trying to be, the number one company in this space. We're trying to build a company that we feel like we can be proud of and that pays us enough money for us to live well and to live the lives that we want to live. And the culture that I provide them is one of what I like to call CEO privileges for everyone. There's no notice that you have to give for time off. You let people know, you cover your work, you make sure things are done, and you put it on Slack, and there's no permissions needed or anything like that. You can take a Wednesday off if you're not feeling it. If you have something that's on your mind or your head's not right, don't sit down at the computer when your head's not right. Go clear your head, go do what you need to do. I think that culture we've built and that I think that that promise that I've given the people of we're going to treat you well, we're going to pay you fairly, and you're going to enjoy your life instead of have work detract from your life. It's going to be additive has actually been a really nice pitch. We do have a bit of a tiger by the tail but it's not something that I ever planned on when we started the company.
And the point that I was making for you is you want to do things so that it could turn into that kind of thing where you're not self-sabotaging by selling yourself short. By really what that leads to is cutting corners. What I'm saying is you don't because when you start this thing, Colin, you do not know. You don't have the right, and you do not know how big it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? This may turn into the next because you can't just do it, Colin, off. I'm again, you're going to have to tolerate me because I coach $1 million earners. All right. But you're going to have to give yourself the, just the awareness that it could hit. Probably, the odds are against you and all that. And you live in a realistic world. But on the other hand, you don't want to cut corners. You don't want to sell yourself short. You want to put yourself in a position where you'd have to go back and redo things in the past.
Right.
Which you could have easily set up, for uninterrupted success. And, and that triggers all kind of positive decisions where you don't take too much work on yourself. You don't fail to delegate, that would allow you to
totally. Yeah. You got to build the scale. Build the scale.
Bottlenecking around yourself. You think in terms of, I'm not just going to bring this person in and get them to do a job, but I'm going to train them to understand what they're doing, where they could train someone else, and then they could, move into management, because people that are training other people wind up being more serious themselves. It's like the parenting, right? It's like the parenting, activating the parenting instinct in an employee. If they're they're involved in, I've always felt like you should in school take the second graders and have them go in sometime during the week and teach the first graders something, go in and teach them something, because that'll
Right.
make them feel, realize I'm not a first grader, I have learned. And then as you move up the ladder, but it's a way of creating that responsibility and all. But
No,
now,
I totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, and I don't mean to be flippant about it. It's more of I think the modesty is like a feature, not a bug. You know what I mean? Like
right,
where I try to remind, and I've seen, I guess it's because I've been through Techstars a couple times, and I've seen a lot of founders fail, and failure is something that is always in the realm of possibility.
right,
And it can sneak up on you, and it can, I've seen companies do meteoric rises and just as fast falls. And like, I guess I'm always trying to make sure that I stay centered on, this is my first business, and I want to make sure I don't take it for granted, and I don't try to do something with it that doesn't serve the company. You know what I mean? And so I'm always trying to, but I agree with you. You got to set things up to scale, and you're absolutely, I don't micromanage anyone on the team. My team is fully autonomous people who are all total aces.
well, and the thing that none of us know is who's going to show up tomorrow. Number one, this is an idea that popped in your head. Well, your head is still operating. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's much more educated than it was when that idea came in. And so
totally.
And so the thing that I try and wake people up to is be aware. Every time you accomplish something, you move to another level, and things open up. In the process of accomplishing, like what you've done. You've gotten contacts, you've gotten experience, you've been forced to develop skills, you've got, a staff, you've assembled a working staff around you, which, probably has.
We've navigated a pandemic, like, you know what I mean? Like it's been, we had a year and a half before the pandemic, and now 2.5 after. And so, we've learned, and I've learned a lot about, scaling a company from, $30,000 a month to, $1 million a month in a short time span, in a crazy environment. And so, you're right. I'm curious as to like how some of your guests deal with the constant flow of ideas that they deal with. That's something that's difficult for me, as I have to really stay centered on S&G. But it's not it won't be my last business, that's for sure.
Right. And what would you say the one thing that was really interesting and probably encompassing a ton of knowledge is how to scale from a few thousand to $1 million a month or so? What were you saying? What were those numbers?
Well, I mean, I think within 2 years, we went from, I think, September 2018, we did like 30 grand in sales. And then November 2020, we did our first, I think it was like 1.03 million or something like that. It's like, holy crap, like how do you, and then, in the there was some yada, yada, yada in the meantime of a global pandemic and like worldwide crisis and, like all this stuff. And we went through an accelerator and we raised, $1 million. And like, there's all this crazy stuff of like how you get there that, now that I know, and I got it in my head, it's like, okay, the next business, what would I do differently? What would I change? How would I set things up differently from the get-go? Like that's, yeah.
Thank you. And this is and the way you get there on those things is exactly that, constantly improving. Because this is what I challenge people, is like when you go through the finish line, you got to focus on the finish line, to get it done, but keep your eyes up for opportunities that you might not even have known you exist. It's kind of like being out here in Colorado and getting to the top of a 14,000 foot mountain. You don't know the view you're going to get once you're standing on that thing until you get up there, And so, You know,
You know, it is a lot like backpacking or camping. Like, you know, like the first time I ever went backpacking, I was terrified. I didn't know what to bring. I'm from Florida. I'm a
right.
flatlander. You
Yeah.
know, I was like Googling how to deal with bears, like, you know, like, or, you know, whatever it needed to be done. And I had to figure out portable cooking and like all these different things. And you know, now I love it. I go all the time because it just gets easier, and then you start planning harder ones and more you know, more aggressive ones. And that's really fun too. And I think the business is the same way, where it's like, all right, like we've we've we have well over 100,000 customers now, and they want a bunch of new things from us. So let's give them pajamas, let's give them you know, mattresses and pillows and all sorts of different. So we just launched our mattress, and that shipped next week. So really
Really,
excited. Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. It's a eucalyptus mattress. It's got three main ingredients: eucalyptus lyocell, uh, rubber tree sap for the latex layers, and recycled U.S. steel. And it's made in Phoenix. And I'm really excited to bring it to market. And then our pillows are going to be eucalyptus as well, with kapok and latex from tree sap as well, and as the interior. And those start shipping in October, and those are made right here in Denver.
Really.
So really, yeah, really excited to bring these two new products to market in the next couple months.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, well, what I would, you know, the way you're going to handle all the ideas and everything, saying you're going to be handling things the way you handle everything to get to this point. Okay. you know, you're gonna just, it's going to be following your instinct, following the things that you know, perk your attention up the most. And you know, if this time it comes around, it doesn't really sparkle. Next time when it comes time to do it, it will sparkle. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You know,
Yeah, totally. I think about this all the time. Is like, I started this company as like, I had just turned 27 when I started this company. And it's like, man, like what, and I know a lot of founders are younger than that, and a lot of founders are older than that too. It's just really interesting to think about, like, you know, what the hell was I thinking? A 27-year-old dude, you know, founding a bedding company. Like, how is it possible that I got here? It's weird. It's weird. It's
yeah.
very surreal. It's very surreal.
And so you started, you know, when did you get the idea of going to business school?
Well, so I think when I was in high school, I was in my econ class, and I really had a knack for econ. It just was very simple for me in a lot of ways. And I was a math guy, and I, you know, calc AB and BC and numbers guy. And, you know, they used to tutor the SAT, got a perfect score on the SAT, and used to tutor it for folks. And my high school economics teacher was just really, he said, you should go to business school. And you know, so when people say stuff like that to you, it can really have an inordinate effect on what you do and the path that you take. And I respected this guy, and he was a smart guy, and he taught me my favorite subject. And so I said, well, you know, like, how do I find out what's a good business school? And he showed me some rankings. And Emory, I think at the time, was number 7 in the country for the undergraduate program. And I had an old friend who had gone there a few years prior that I grew up with, and reached out to him, and we chatted. And it would, you know, I with a perfect score on the SAT, I kind of felt like I could go anywhere. And I visited Emory's campus, and really loved it, and loved that it was close to Fort Lauderdale. I could fly home pretty easily. And it was, my family had a house in North Carolina that my father had built in the early 2000s. That was only a 3-hour drive from campus. So I could, you know, meet my family up there. And I got a scholarship, so I didn't have to go into debt to go. And if I hadn't gotten that scholarship, I don't think I would have gone. But I ended up going. So, and it was that's how it came about. I just, the things when you're 17, like these decisions, they're so undervalued, I guess, in terms of like how, you know, I didn't apply to MIT, I didn't apply to Harvard, I didn't apply to any of these places. I just, you know, I saw a school, I liked it, business school looked good, I liked the campus, and
Right.
I was like, great, I'll go here, you know. Like, so it's not the smartest way to do it, honestly.
Yeah. And, that's a whole nother subject right there. You don't know when, freshmen are coming through high school, they're not thinking about most of them, depending on how,
I wasn't thinking about anything other than
yeah,
surviving lunch.
it's
You
like
know,
their junior year before I need some good grades. It's like, yeah, and you screwed off the first 2 years. Now you got to overcome all that media,
no,
saying that.
I was a total nerd. I was a straight A guy. I studied like crazy. And but it's just funny. Like the advice I'm going to give them, my dad went to Boston College. My mom didn't go to college. She got her associates. So she got her associates. But my parents didn't really put a big emphasis on college. Go where you want to go. We'll make it happen. We'll figure it out. It's your life. I kind of wish, they'd been a little more hands-on, but my parents were busy. My dad was an attorney, and my mom was an acupuncturist, and they both own their own business. They're both entrepreneurs. So, they were busy with their own, they let me and my sister be pretty autonomous with this stuff.
And it's interesting how that you wound up, but you can see that there probably was a plan behind all this anyway. It was a random decision for you, but you seem to have wound up in the right place, Colin. Thanks for listening to the Million Dollar Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.